Devaya.
Canto 3, Chapter 7, Text 1. Sri Suka Uvacha.
Sri Suka Vacha.
Evam Dhruvanam Maitreyam.
Evam Bhuvanam Maitreyam.
Dvaipayana Suto Buddhaha.
Dvaipayana Sutodaha.
Prinayan iva bharataya.
Prinayan iva bharataya.
Viduraha pratyabhasata.
Viduraha pratyabhasataha.
Sri Suka Uvacha.
Sri Suka Vacha.
Evam Dhruvanam Maitreyam.
Evam Bhuvanam Maitreyam.
Dvaipayana Suto Buddhaha.
Dvaipayana Suto Buddhaha.
Prinayan Eva Bhartaya.
Prinayan iva bharataya.
Vidura Pratyabhasata.
Vidura pratyabhasata.
Sri Suka Uvacha.
Sri Suka Vacha.
Evam Bhuvanam Maitreyam.
Evam Bhuvanam Maitreyam.
Dvaipayana Suto Buddha.
Dvaipayana Suto Buddhaha.
Pranayan Eva Bharatya.
Prinayan iva bharatya.
Vidura Pratyabhasata.
Vidura pratyabhasata. Sri Suka Vacha. Sri Suka Vacha. Evam Bhuvanam Maitreyam. Evam Bhuvanam Maitreyam. Dvaipayana Sutta Buddhaha. Dvaipayana Sutta Buddhaha. Prinayan iva bharatya. Prinayan iva bharatya. Vidura pratyabhasata. Vidura pratyabhasata. Shri Suka Vacha. Shri Suka Vacha. Evam Bhuvanam Maitreyam. Evam Bhuvanam Maitreyam. Dvaipayana Suto Buddhaha. Dvaipayana Suto Buddhaha. Prinayan iva bharatya. Prinayan iva bharatya. Viduraha pratyabhasata. Viduraha pratyabhasata.
Sri Suka Uvacha.
Sri Suka Vacha.
Sri Sukadev Goswami said,
Sri Sukadev Goswami said,
Evam,
Evam,
thus,
thus,
Bhruvanam,
Bhuvanam,
speaking,
Maitreyam,
unto the sage Maitreya,
unto the sage Maitreya,
Dvaipayana,
Dvaipayana, Sutta,
the son of Dvaipayana,
the son of Dvaipayana,
Buddhaha,
Buddha,
learned, Prinayan, in a pleasing manner, Eva, as it was, Bharatya, in the manner of a request, Viduraha, Vidura, Pratyabhasata, expressed. Translation. Sri Sukadev Goswami said, O king, while Maitreya, the great sage, was thus speaking, Vidura, the learned son of Dvaipayana Vyasa, expressed a request in a pleasing manner by asking this question. There is no purport. It's okay. Should I go to the second?
Yeah, you can go to the next.
Next.
But first, can we repeat?
Oh yeah, sure.
You lead us,
Okay.
please.
Sri Sukadeva Goswami said,
Sri Shukadeva Goswami said,
O king,
O king,
while Maitreya,
while Maitreya,
the great sage,
the great sage,
was thus speaking,
Vidura,
the learned son of Dvaipayana Vyasa,
the learned son of Dvaipayana Vyasa,
expressed a request
in
in a pleasing manner by asking this question. Vidura Uvacha Brahman Katam Bhagavatas Chinmatrasyeva Vikarinaha
Chinmatrasya vikarinaha
Leelaya chapi yujyeran Nirgunasya gunaha kriyaha. One more time.
It's okay. What the word?
You want? Just okay. Vidura Uvacha. Vidura said. Brahman. O Brahmana. Katam. How? Bhagavataha. Of the personality of Godhead. Chitmatrasya. Of the complete spiritual whole. Avikarinaha. Of the unchangeable. Leelaya. By his pastime. Cha. Either. Api. Even though it is so. Yujeran. Take place. Nirgunasya. Who is without the modes of nature. Gunaha. Modes of nature. Kriyaha. Activities. Translation. Sri Vidura said, O great Brahmana, since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the complete spiritual whole and is unchangeable, how is he connected with the material modes of nature and their activities? If this is his pastime, how do the activities of the unchangeable take place and exhibit qualities without the modes of nature? Will you repeat? Sri Vidura said, O great Brahmana, since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the complete spiritual whole and is unchangeable, how is he connected with the material modes of nature
How is he connected with the material modes of nature
and their activities? If this is his pastime, how do the activities of the unchangeable take place and exhibit qualities without modes of nature? Perfect.
Yeah.
Since it's very long, maybe everybody can say this. As described in the previous chapter, the difference between the super soul, the Supreme Lord, and the living entities is that the activities of the Lord in creating the cosmic manifestation are performed by the Lord through the agency of his multifarious energies. But this manifestation is bewildering to the living entities. The Lord is therefore the master of the energies, whereas the living entities are subjugated by them. By asking various questions about transcendental activities, Vidura is clearing the misconception that when the Lord either descends on the earth in his incarnation or appears himself with all his potencies, he too is subjugated to the influence of Maya, just like an ordinary living entity. This is generally the calculation of less intelligent philosophers who consider the position of the Lord and that the living entities to be on the same level. Vidura is hearing the great sage Maitreya refute these arguments. The Lord is described in this verse as Chinmatra, or completely spiritual. The personality of Godhead has unlimited potencies to create and manifest many wonderful things, both temporary and permanent. Because this material world is the creation of his external energy, it thus appears to be temporary. It is manifested at certain intervals, maintained for some time, and again dissolved and conserved in his own energy. As described in the Bhagavad Gita 8.19, Bhutva Bhutva Praliyate. But the creation of his internal potency, the spiritual world, is not a temporary manifestation like the material world, but is eternal and full of transcendental knowledge, opulence, energy, strength, beauties, and glories. Such manifestation of the Lord's potencies are eternal and are therefore called nirguna, or free from all tinges of the modes of material nature, even up to the mode of material goodness. The spiritual world is transcendental even to the material goodness and thus is unchangeable. Since the Supreme Lord of such eternal and unchangeable qualities is never subjugated by anything like material influence, how can these activities and the form can be conceived to be under the influence of illusory Maya, as this is the case with the living entities?
A juggler or magician displays many wonders with his acts and arts. He can become a cow by his magical tactics, and yet he is not a cow. He is not that cow. But at the same time, the cow displayed by the magician is not different from him. Similarly, the material potency is not different from the Lord, because it is an emanation from him. But at the same time, that manifestation of potency is not the Supreme Lord. The Lord's transcendental knowledge and potency always remain the same. They do not change, even when displayed in the material world. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord descends on the earth by his own internal potency, and therefore there is no question of his becoming materially contaminated, changed, or otherwise affected by the modes of material nature. The Lord is Saguna by his own internal potency, but at the same time he is Nirguna, since he is not in touch with the material energy. The restrictions of the prison house are applicable to prisoners who are condemned by the king's law, but the king is never affected by such implications. Although he may visit the prison house out of his goodwill. In the Vishnu Purana, the 6 opulences of the Lord are stated to be non-different from him. The opulences of transcendental knowledge, strength, opulence, potency, beauty, and renunciation are all identical with the personality of Godhead. When he personally displays such opulences in the material world, they have no connection with the modes of material nature. The very word Chinmatrutva is the guarantee that the Lord's activities are always transcendental, even when displayed in the material world. His activities are as good as the Supreme Personality himself. Otherwise, liberated devotees like Sukadeva Goswami would not have been attracted by that. Vidura inquired how the Lord's activities can be in the modes of material nature, as is sometimes miscalculated by persons with a poor fund of knowledge. The inebriety of the material qualities is due to the difference between the material body and the spirit soul. The conditioned soul's activities are displayed through the medium of the modes of material nature and are therefore perverted in appearance. However, the Lord's body and the Lord himself are one and the same, and when the Lord's activities are displayed, they are certainly non-different from the Lord in all respects. The conclusion is that persons who consider the Lord's activities material are certainly mistaken.
Om Tat Sat. So this first sloka, very nicely, Sukadeva Goswami is pointing out the manner in which Maitreya is posing his questions. So this is etiquette of the devotees, how to always speak in a very pleasing manner. And he's not challenging, he's Vidura, he's Yamaraj himself, he knows everything, the entire creation, how it works, everything. And yet he's inquiring from Maitreya. The timeline is that before this, actually Vidura was so humble, he went to Uddhav to ask about what happened to the family after the Mahabharata fighting and all that. And Uddhav, taking again a humble position, he said, "You are very elder to me, how can I talk to you?" Even though he is perfectly suitable to describe the Supreme Lord, because he had seen him personally as the Supreme Lord. And Uddhav directs him to go to Maitreya, because Maitreya is senior and he has also seen the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. So on those conditions, actually he goes, and Maitreya was describing the entire creation, how the creation was made in the previous chapter. That is also very interesting. Even though I tried to read several times to understand how the Lord is explaining how the creation is made, and one idea that I came to my mind, how the Lord says from the sound of Omkar, original sound, everything else is coming out. So one of the scientific explanation is that when you vibrate Omkar, like with the sound Om on some table and put some sand, you can create patterns. You can create all patterns. So sound actually can create patterns. So when you mix all the material ingredients and create certain sounds, you can create all types of species of life. And in that chapter also Krishna says that along with Kali, he also entered into the Durga. Parvati is the mother of the creation. So there was a small mathematical formula, permutation combination I was doing. So if you do 3 modes of material nature, if you calculate as increments of 0.5%, combination of 0.5% of Sattva Guna, that is 200 combinations we get. Same thing with Rajoguna, if you do 0.5% and for 100, it's like 200 you'll get. So same with Tamoguna. And there are 3 more conditions if you do, like 1 Sattva Guna and 0 Rajoguna and Tamoguna. And same with 1 full Rajoguna and 0 Sattva Guna and 0 tamoguna. Like that, 3 conditions, it's 203 of each guna you will get. So you do the math, you multiply 203 times 203 times 203, it comes to 8.4 million. So it's a mathematical combination only of all the 8.4 million species have come about.
Krishna is so amazing.
Yeah, so I was also wonderstruck with that. And then how do you understand here so many places it says there is one demigod who's controlling our eyelid, like eye movement, one demigod is doing that. One demigod, Mitra, he is controlling our anus, how we actually excrete. So how do we understand all those things? In my mind, I was thinking, just like Google Play Store has so many microservices, like you want to use Windows Word, so you can download that. But just because you download it and you are able to use Microsoft Word doesn't mean you are the owner of it. Actually, there is another creator. There is a company like Microsoft is a creator, and he created and let everybody use it. You can just download it. If you know the process of downloading and using it, you can use it. Like that, there are several microservices. There are millions of microservices that the Lord has given to the demigods. So all this eye movement, like if that one demigod is controlling, then all the 8.4 million species are using this control. It's like a microservice, and that in charge is that demigod. It's something for me to understand. I thought that was an interesting way to understand. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but
Well, there's 33,333,333 demigods. That's a lot of demigods. So there's a lot of different things the demigods do.
right. Actually, one place I read was that it's basically 33 categories only of demigods are there. Like Aditya means the sun god. There are 12 incarnations of Aditya, and there are 11 Rudras, and there are 8 directions, and there are 2 Ashwini Kumaras. If you add all this up, it comes to 33. So under each category, there are 1 crore, 10 million devatas. So that's how the 33 crore devata came into picture.
It's like a government.
It's like government.
The head of the department is 33 heads of department, and then
Under
they
them,
have
there are
so many, just like a government. So this is a creation. So this 33 crore Devi Devata are inside this one bubble.
Yeah, just to not
Each bubble
is-
will have that many, whatever the size. Maybe it's the size of the bubble. Our bubble is not so huge. So maybe 33 crore Devi Devata. Maybe because there is in the Krishna book 10,000 headed Brahma comes also.
Yes.
So his Brahmand would be so huge, his
Right.
universe
Right.
would be much used. So maybe they have much
Right.
more. It's like the government size.
Correct.
If you go to see actually in the world also, each country has their government. So each government, if you add all the people who are working in the government of all the countries,
That will be that
so
much.
many people are working in the government, right?
Exactly.
Just to run this earth.
Right. So here, in a pleasing manner, to talk in a pleasing manner, bhrume, that's the word used. Actually, in Bhagavad Gita also Krishna talks about how a person should talk. Satyam bruyat, priyam bruyat, hitam bruyat. So if you want to talk, you should only talk the truth, and that too in a pleasing manner. Hitam, priyam bruyat, and hitam bruyat. If it is not useful for him, if it is not hit means useful,
Beneficial.
beneficial. If it is not beneficial, you should not talk. So that is the guideline anyway Krishna gave, and devotees acquire all the qualities by just being a devotee. So he is automatically speaking in a very pleasing manner. So the inquiry here is, how is it that the Supreme Lord, if he is transcendental, and if you consider this entire material creation as his pastime, how is it that he is not affected and he is entered into every single atom of this material creation? And still, how is he not affected? This is the basic inquiry of Vidura.
Also, one more thing on the first chapter, one. Why the use of Dvaipayana Sutto?
Yeah, son.
Yeah,
Son of-
so that is very important also, because Sukadeva Goswami is the son of Vyasadeva. So in that way, Vidura is also his brother.
Yeah.
In that way.
Yeah.
And he wants to maybe tell that he is such a learned because of he being the son of Vyasadeva.
Correct.
Is that what also?
Maybe possible, that's also good to say that he is not an ordinary person who is inquiring.
And also here, when I was hearing Dvaipayana Vyasa, that time I'm thinking, why is Sukadeva Goswami talking about himself again? But then I realized later that
He's also
describing
son. He's
actually
also
Vidura is the
Son of
Dvaipayana.
Vyasa.
Yeah.
He's also son of
But
Vyasa.
if you go to see like that, the Pandu Maharaj and the other one, Dhritarashtra, both are also sons.
Yeah,
But Vidura is given that importance here
right.
to say that, he is the son.
Right. One place Prabhupada was quoting that how Vidura actually, he is like one of the very great positions of being Yamaraj. He did only a small decision which was wrong. It's not wrong. He punished one sage in an extreme way. Mandukya Muni? Yeah. So he gave him an extreme punishment. For that, he cursed him to take birth as a son of a Sudra, become a son of a Sudra basically. That's how he says, as devotees, if GBCs also make some mistake, you can imagine how grave the punishment will be. In that sense, Prabhupada was quoting that.
Yeah, but also Prabhupada mentions that as far as Yamaraj is concerned, he's always very busy taking care of other living entities, and so he hardly ever gets a break.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
It was Krishna's arrangement to
Yes.
get cursed,
Right.
so then he could take birth as Vidura,
Yes.
and then praise the Lord and do all kinds
Enjoy
of nice
preaching.
things.
Yes.
Yeah. Whenever Krishna does, he does so many things, takes care of so many things at one shot. So this, I had another idea how to understand this same topic, how Krishna is remotely controlling everything here, and yet he is present also inside that. Just like scientists today, he can also throw an object into the space like a satellite, and that satellite is completely controlled remotely, and it is filled with intelligence, so much intelligence that as an ordinary person, from our point of view, it looks like a magician doing some magical feat. It is actually. But if you know how it is done, then it is not a magic anymore. Just like we hear all the Sai Baba and all that, why they become so popular is because they just, move their hand like that, and then suddenly all the girls, they get ears pierced. How that happens? He obviously has some siddhi or whatever. That is questionable, but still, even if he has, but it looks like he's a magician, and those who don't know this technique definitely looks very interesting. We become attracted to such type of feats. So same way, Krishna, the scientist, he is remotely throwing that object, satellite, into the space, and yet all the intelligence is there in the scientist's intelligence is there in the satellite, but yet the scientist is not there inside that. The same way Krishna has put so much of all his energies in a remote fashion, and yet he is not there. He is there in all of us, and yet he is not there, and he is also not affected by the modes of material nature.
It mentions in the Brahma Samhita also that although the Lord is present inside of every atom and present in the heart of every living entity, that still He's there in His fullness.
Yes.
So you have to consider there's a different concept of space when you're dealing with Krishna, because Krishna is everywhere present.
Yes.
And He's there in His fullness in every single atom. So space is, as far as Krishna is concerned, we have a certain concept of space.
Right.
But as far as Krishna is concerned,
There is no space.
It's not that there's like space between things, because Krishna's manifest.
Right.
Because Krishna
Yeah. Just like if we consider our body is made of billions and billions of atoms, and if we consider the body is like a Virat Rupa, and then say if we feel itching someplace, anywhere, any part of the body, but instantly our hand goes and scratches that part. So if you look at a microscopic way, it looks like millions and billions of miles apart, but the Lord can easily reach and address that particular living entity like that. Yeah. So in that sense, there is no space for him. So the whole, in this also, later in this chapter, we'll see Vidura asking more questions, and basically Bhagavatam is always helping us look away from the material creation and point us how we are the spiritual entity. So one nice example is given here. Constantly the moon reflection is there in the water if we see, and all the time if we are seeing the moon but in the reflection, and if the water moves a little bit, it feels like the moon is moving. But because we are not used to looking away from the reflection and looking at the moon, actually nothing happened to the moon. The same way for us, our miseries, our material miseries are because we are looking constantly in our body, in the material condition as a jiva. Yaya sammohita jiva atmanam trigunatmakam. We are basically, all our suffering is coming because we are seeing ourselves as a product of this material world. So Bhagavatam is always trying to help us to say that we are not this body, we are the spirit soul. So to look away and see our spiritual nature. If a jiva itself can be free from material misery just by looking at our identity, how can the Lord be conditioned to any material miseries? Or
can you say that again? Excuse me. I couldn't comprehend what you
what I said. What I'm trying to say, Bhagavatam is saying, Yaya sammohita jiva atmanam trigunatmakam. Only because we are thinking, atmanam means body in this case, trigunatmakam. Because we are considering our body is a product of material nature, we are, all the misery is superfluous. It is not there. There is no misery for us. But you have to look yourself that you are the spirit soul. Moment you see that you yourself as a jiva don't have any problem with the material world, how then the Lord will be subjugated to the material condition?
This point, I like this topic. How Vidura is asking. His question is also so elevated. we don't think of such a question. Krishna comes, he can come, but he's asking the detail, we are not on that level, first of all, to understand this type of question. But one day we will come to that level. So Vidura is asking this question on our behalf, that how is it that the Lord, he comes, even though he is not supposed to come, he is not in the material creation, he is not affected by the three modes of material nature, but still he comes. How it is done? It is so magical, actually.
Yeah, that's why.
That he comes, but he's not like he's not touched with anything, and he's himself. It is so great, actually.
Yeah.
He wants to know how the Lord does it. So beautiful.
Actually, I always thought because AI has become so popular now, this third chapter, of course, including the Mahavishnu breathing and creating the universe, all that can have a touch display. You can touch and go to every loka on the screen. Every temple can have one like that. And it can be a beautiful program to just explain the creation and how all the demigods are in their own place, creating, all the third chapter, the previous chapter, sixth chapter, the entire creation, all the layers you can build and show. You can drag and drop and do interactive way of, the entire creation. The chapter can be learned like that. I'm sure there is.
May Krishna give you those devotees to give you that.
I know. I always, whenever I read that, I always have that in mind. You should have that, interactive way of.
Interactive.
Yeah, interactive way of you touch the screen and then you can see
This
the
would be
material.
great for children.
Yeah. And even for us, because you don't like to read so much like this, but if you see it in an interactive way, how the Lord is saying, these are wonderful.
Visual, actually.
Visuals,
because we have to read, when we are reading, we have to visualize everything. So it's not easy to visualize what is written, actually.
Yeah.
So somebody is visualizing it for
But
you and showing
now
it
with the
simply.
present technology, you can actually get all these analogies like that. You can put layer and layer, 23 layers. You can build your own thing.
Hey, can we hire you?
And Krishna has to
I
hire
don't
you
know
for
if I have
this.
the qualification to hire.
Set the price.
Pure bhakti.
Any other thoughts?
It's unchangeable. Activities of the unchangeable take place and exhibit qualities without the modes of nature. How great. He's unchangeable,
Yeah.
but he does activities. That unchangeable, how he does activities. So it's
He is unchangeable.
contradictory.
Well, yes.
Activity means something is changing,
Right.
Good point.
but it is unchangeable.
Yeah.
And without the modes of material nature. So when Ramachandra came, when Krishna came, their pastimes in our eyes, we cannot fully, now with this sloka, you can, think, wow, how great Krishna's pastimes are. He's unchangeable, but he is doing all these activities. Great, actually.
But the creation itself is a pastime.
Yeah,
That's the point.
creation.
What was it?
The creation itself is a pastime of the Lord.
Yeah.
Since it is his dream, so we are all in his dream, but his dream is so real.
You have some extra realization that not everybody has because of that near-death experience that you had.
That was just,
I was fascinated. Wonderful.
it's a freak. I don't deserve, but Prabhupada was kind, that's all I can say. Actually, there is the other point, Bhagavatam again, we have that sloka, Srinvata Shraddhaya Nityam. When we hear with great attention, Nityam, every day, then Krishna promises, Kalena Ati Dirghena, in due course of time. Bhagavan Vishate Hridi. The Lord will establish himself in the heart. But he is already there in the heart. So how do we understand that?
Well, in the pastime of the Gundicha Margin, it's mentioned that we should cleanse our hearts so that our heart can be a nice sitting place for the Lord. So that's something that we have to attend to also. We have to make our hearts as clean as Lord Chaitanya cleaned the Gundicha temple. And then our hearts will be a nice sitting place for the Lord.
Plus, isn't it also that we are...
But actually the very next sloka, it says, just because the Lord established himself, it is like the autumn rain. When he comes, he cleanses everything. So, with
But we have to make endeavor also to cleanse,
yes.
by paying attention to chanting of Hare Krishna, hearing Hare Krishna,
Right.
and seeing if we can get direction from the Lord within the heart as to what we should do and shouldn't do also.
But also can
So what is the difference between the Lord sitting in the heart as Paramatma and the Lord established again as Paramatma after cleansing?
Well, but it doesn't, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it mentions the Lord as Krishna, not necessarily as Paramatma. So for a devotee, then Radha and Krishna can come and stay in the heart. Not just Paramatma, but also Radha and Krishna.
one's Ishtadev. Whoever one's Ishtadev is, he reveals himself the more we become purified. So then
Swarupen Vyavastiti. Our original Swarupa is revealed to us.
yeah, Paramatma's always there, but we can't see him. We're not allowed to see him because we're not pure enough. But when we do become pure enough, like in Patanjali's yoga system, if you actually follow the Ashtanga yoga system, you can become purified enough to see the Lord in your heart. And that's what Patanjali said is the goal of the yoga practice. But then beyond that is to see our Ishtadev, to see our Lord in his pastimes, always displayed. And that's how the devotee sees Krishna everywhere, sees Lord Ram everywhere. By his mercy, the Lord reveals himself. Is that okay?
Yeah, thanks. It's good.
Please keep going. This is sweet.
I think the Lord is there in our heart in a different, in a different rasa, or what do you say?
Yeah, that's what she said.
Yeah, before.
Shanta rasa.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's no rasa also.
Yeah, there's no rasa, but just
because
that.
we are not looking at, he's sitting next to us because of our material conditioning. We are not even looking at him. We are looking away from him.
Yes.
So we are not even perceiving that he is there.
Yes, I think when we chant, sometimes we will once in a while, and that is when our chanting is very, very sweet. The day we have seen while chanting, we do, we know that he is there, and sometimes when our chanting is very nice, we can feel him in our heart.
I think chanting is so powerful. Basically, we have to feel every quality of Krishna, when we are chanting, if we meditate that how that Krishna we are touching, that quality we will imbibe slowly.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Can you say that again? Because I didn't really understand.
We know Krishna is non-different from his holy name.
Yeah.
But when you are chanting, which quality that you like say for example, Achyuta is pure, he is infallible. When you are chanting Krishna, I am touching that infallible Achyuta, then our qualities also will become Achyuta, will become infallible.
Nice.
And I think that's one of the ways I think Dhruva Maharaj, when he was just meditating, it says after the 6th month, there was no more false ego. So he was just a 5-year-old boy. He puts his leg on the earth, and then the entire planet tilts. When he stops breathing, the entire air, the universal air stops. So there is no difference. So like that, devotees of Hare Krishna, we are chanting Hare Krishna, Prabhupada gave this powerful tool. We chant 16 rounds. There is nothing, no power in this world that can stop a devotee from doing whatever he wants. If we all have the same synergy, because Krishna can do anything. In fact, the next sloka is, one of the next chapters is Brahma's prayers is asking to give me creative powers. So Brahma is the creator, but he is asking the Lord to give creative powers. But Krishna already has those powers. So when we are chanting Hare Krishna and we want to create something, so if you are touching Krishna and you get that creative power too. So if we want to convert this into Varnashrama and all have the same synergy, then all devotees chant, it will manifest.
And if you want to make an interactive program,
it can manifest. Yes.
is this where the idea comes from? People talk about this, that, like for instance, Srila Prabhupada told us that the written word is very powerful. He said that Sumati Maraji convinced him to write books because the printed word is very powerful. So if we want to see something manifest, people say, get a clear vision, mental understanding of what you want to see achieved, and then they say, write it down.
Yes.
Write it. Is this where this comes from?
I think so. It's more powerful than the spoken word.
Oh.
Because Kali Yuga, our memories are very, short, and we forget so fast. So when you write, it reinforces our spoken word. I think that's what it is. Amplified when you write, the same spoken word is reinforced again. And that helps others to see the same vision.
True. Last time you were here, you were talking about how important it is to chant with attention to every syllable of the Maha Mantra. And I was watching you chanting last time you were here, chanting japa with great deep concentration. And that helped me. So not only the written word or the spoken word, but your example too that you set is very powerful for others to see. So I want to thank you for that and encourage you to keep preaching this, how important it is to chant with attention. Because you're dealing, like you said, you're dealing with Krishna, you're dealing with a person. You're calling Krishna, Krishna's holy names, and Krishna is fully present in his holy names. So, but if you're just like, la-dee-da, just spacing out, how are you going to perceive Krishna in his holy names?
I read somewhere 3 times if you chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, it is equal to 100 Ashwamedha yajnas. which Bali Chakravarti wanted to achieve. So we get as devotees so easily that benefit. That means every devotee is eligible to become Indra minimum next life. So
Or
powerful.
at least to get Krishna as our doorkeeper.
That is why Prabhupada told, no, all my disciples will go to the higher planetary systems for sure. That is the least. You know that, right?
You just made me remember something. Who was it? Shivananda Prabhu, where were we reading that? That some devotee was going up to the spiritual world, and Prabhupada made the comment in the purport that oftentimes if devotees are not completely pure, if they have some little curiosity about the heavenly planets, then they may stop and look around on their way up.
Yes.
But there was one devotee that we were reading about that didn't have any interest in stopping to see the heavenly planets. He just shot right past them. Who was that? Do you remember? Anyway.
Prahlad Maharaj, no? Prahlad Maharaj, he goes with his mother in the airplane, right? Isn't it Prahlad Maharaj or Dhruv Maharaj? Dhruv Maharaj. And
He has another airplane for
Yeah,
him.
another before him, her airplane comes.
But just see what a responsible young man
Mm.
he is. He takes care of his mother up to the point of death. Yeah, sorry for my digression.
What did you say, Mataji?
Sorry for my digression.
Oh,
No. So, no.